Welcome to But First She Failed. Would you like to have confidence when you go into that meeting, no matter who's in the room? Want to quit that job that makes you feel unhappy and start that dream business or go after that dream job, but you're scared of failing? Do you ever wonder how those wildly successful women got to where they are today? Hey, I'm Paola Soares, a former journalist who feared, failed, and overcame. I too dealt with imposter syndrome and lacked confidence in my career. After being let go from a position that I thought was a dream job and feeling like I failed, I had a life-changing revelation. Every successful person fails, and it's part of the journey towards success and purpose. Now I'm on a mission to help others redefine failure and chase bold dreams. If you're done with playing small and want to become the best version of yourself, then you're in the right place. Here is where your personal growth and development meets your career and business dreams. My goal is to empower you to become the badass and well-balanced boss woman you know you're meant to be. Consider me your personal growth bestie. Listen in as I talk to trailblazing women that share wisdom, strategies, and get vulnerable about how moments of failure propelled them to where they are today. Get ready to get inspired. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the But First She Failed podcast. Guys, I'm so excited to be back. You may have noticed that last week, sorry, there's a bird chirping outside, but you may have noticed that last week there was no episode, and I'm actually kind of proud of myself. I know that sounds very weird. Hear me out on this topic. So in the past, I've struggled with kind of being really a perfectionist, as you guys know, because of the series that I've just recently did. And I really struggled with I take that mindset that I had in national news of the episode has to go live at a certain time. There must be a story. There must be something that's going to be dead air. And so I took that approach whenever I transitioned into podcasting. And so I used to take it very, very seriously, which is a great thing. It's not a bad thing to be consistent and to be on it. But when I went on the year-long maternity leave when my daughter was born a year and a half ago, one of the things that I learned on that season was to give myself a lot more grace and to be a lot more chill with the season that I'm in. And as I mentioned, when I was, away, one of the things that I learned was that I can't always put out an episode, especially in the season that I'm in, just because I have my daughter here full time. She's not in school yet. She's going to start a little preschool in the summer, and not in the summer, in the fall. And I'm excited about that. But right now she's here full time with me. And sometimes I have childcare, sometimes I don't. And my son actually got out for summer. So last weekend, we actually went away for the holiday weekend. It was great. We went away as a family for Memorial Day, much needed getaway. We really needed that because we were starting to feel a little burnt out. And so anyways, we went away for the weekend. We came back and I didn't have any help with my kids. My 5-year-old son was here. My daughter, my 1.5-year-old daughter was here. So it was just impossible to record. And I had a lot of commitments that I had made, a lot of opportunities in the evenings with different commitments as far as the business is concerned and speaking opportunity and all that, and which was great. It was great stuff. But I decided not to put out an episode last week. And the reason that I'm saying I'm proud of myself is because in the past I would have beat myself up and felt so awful because I couldn't accomplish it. But in this season, what I learned was that it's okay. I'm mom of very little kids. And I had said when I came back that sometimes there would be weeks where I would miss. And so this was my first week missing, or my second. I think we were super sick once, 2 weeks after I relaunched the podcast, but it's okay. That's the season that I'm in. So hopefully this serves, if you struggle with the same thing, this serves as an example of what you can do when you are a perfectionist, a struggling perfectionist, and things don't go the way that you plan. So I'm really proud of myself. And also one of the commitments I made to myself was that all the content that I create is going to be valuable. And so I could have definitely created an episode, but it would have been a little bit rushed and it just wouldn't have been the episode that I wanted to create. So anyways, that's why you may have missed me last week, but I'm excited to be back because this week's episode is just so great. It's something that's been on my heart for a while, but before we get into it, I wanted to take a minute to shout out someone that left us a review. It's really exciting. Rose Bougie, she said, much needed. I've been looking for something just like this. Every episode is worth listening to and I'm in. Rose Bougie, thank you so much for your comment, for your 5-star review and your kind words. It really means the world to me and I really appreciate it. And just as a reminder to you, if you are listening and you're watching and you find you love this podcast, or if you found this free content valuable or helpful in any way, I'd be so honored and so grateful if you would take a minute to leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. That would just be such a great way to help us really get this message out to more people that may need this content. So if you are an Apple Podcast, that's where she left this review. Thank you so much for leaving that. It really helps bring us visibility on the charts, and it also helps, just like I said, get it out to more women. If you are listening on Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review there. We have very small amount of reviews there, and I'm trying to build that area as well. So I just appreciate it. But thanks again for tuning in. I'm just really excited for what we're going to get into today, right? So before we get into it, I wanted to actually now now let's dive into it, right? Today's episode, I've been wanting to do an episode around this topic since before I went on maternity leave with my daughter, right? I was like, wow, this is such a good topic. We need to dive into this. And I'm so pumped because it's something that I've learned on my journey and I just want to share it with you guys. And, now I'm 133 episodes into this podcast after countless interviews with highly successful women that are trailblazers, as well as like so many different books on this topic, because you can tell I love this topic. And the observations that I've made being in proximity to some very, very successful people, I can say with a lot of certainty in my heart that I believe this to be true, right? That the majority of these people have one thing in common, right? They all pretty much, I would say 98% of them have something in common. It's very rare to see a highly successful person that does not have this mindset or this characteristic, this theme, this trait. And so I am very excited to share with you. So now without further ado, here's the one thing that you need to learn to be successful. So time and time again, like I mentioned, I've noticed this underlying theme or mindset with the vast majority of successful trailblazers, right? They have this, this different mindset. And you might be asking, okay, Paul, you've had all these people on your podcast. What is this thing that you keep talking about? I wish I could do a drum roll, but maybe I can in post editing. We'll see. But what is this characteristic? Well, it's a growth mindset. You might be like, okay, Paola, what is a growth mindset? A growth mindset, per the Oxford Dictionary, the definition is the growth mindset is the belief that you can develop your natural abilities by working hard, listening to advice from others, etc. I personally did not love that whole definition. I think it's okay, but I think that there was a better one. And just if you do a Google search, what comes up is another way to put it is a growth mindset is the belief that one's abilities, intelligence can be developed through dedication, hard work, and through perseverance, right? So this one is a lot more powerful, a lot more impactful, right? It's the idea that talents and skills are not fixed, but they're malleable, they're changeable, they're something that can be improved over time with effort, right? So people with a growth mindset, this type of mindset that we're talking about, that I think pretty much every successful person has, they embrace challenges, they learn from criticism, they view setbacks as opportunities for growth. And it's just such a great opportunity. It's something that I've definitely seen time and time again. And I see it applied in small situations and big. And so you can tell that this whole idea of a growth mindset is super on brand with this whole podcast. As you know, I am on a mission with this podcast, but first she failed, to destigmatize this whole idea of failure, because I really view it as a significant and valuable step towards success and purpose. And I really don't think that it's something that you can be successful without, right, moments of failure, right? So hence the whole topic of this, right? So maybe you're like me and maybe you need the background to kind of get an idea of like, what is it, right? Like you might be like, okay, where did this whole concept of growth mindset come from? Growth what? You might still be a little bit confused. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit, right? So what is a growth mindset, right? A growth mindset is actually a term that was created by this renowned American psychologist. Her name is Carol Dweck, and she basically is known for things about, like, she's a professor at Stanford University, and she's known to research motivation, personality, development. Like, that's like her whole genre, right? But she's especially well known and became famous with this whole concept that she created about growth mindset, right? She created this whole topic. She's really famous for developing the theory of growth mindset. So that's what we've just been talking about versus a fixed mindset, right? So you can either have one or two, right? There's two core mindsets that pretty much everyone has for any situation at any given moment. So they either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? And you can either fall more in this category or that category. But she says successful people have growth mindset, right? So she explores like how people's beliefs, in themselves influence. So her whole thing is like their belief in themselves influences their learning, it influences their success. And she actually created a whole book around this topic, and it, was published in 2006. It's called Mindset: The New Psychology of Success, right? I haven't read this book, but it's actually on my to-do list. I want to start reading it soon. But in this book, she really introduced this whole idea of like fixed mindset and, people that believe that their traits or intelligence or that their talent or that all these things are kind of like innate, like they're born with it. It's unchangeable. It's like, that's what a person with a fixed mindset believes. Like, oh, she can do it because she's got that talent, right? Or she was born with it, right? People with a growth mindset, they believe the opposite, right? They believe that any trait can be developed. They can, through effort and like learning, they can grow and they can thrive, right? So you can see kind of why one would be more of a successful mindset versus another. And through this, like her whole main concept was like the book really argues that success is strongly influenced by how we think of our abilities, right? So, she introduced, like I said, the two core concepts of like you can either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And I think that that's so true, right? I've seen it time and time again, friends. Anyone that is very successful, for the most part, they have this growth mindset. So I've seen them see small and big challenges where things come up and they have this growth mindset, right? They have a growth mindset where they view things from that perspective, right? So it's essentially, if you want to break it down, the way that helps me break down growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is like, pretend you have these lens, right? Like these glasses, right? Like they always hear rose colored glasses, right? So let's say you have these glasses, you put them on and you can view any situation from a growth mindset or you can view it from a fixed mindset, right? Completely two different things, right? So an example of like, for example, a fixed mindset, like what they believe is, this is a person that they struggle more, right? So a fixed mindset person, they believe like abilities, intelligence, the talents, that they're static, right? That they're unchangeable. Like you're either born with it or you're not. Go into any situation, they kind of go into any situation believing this, right? People with, this type of mindset, they avoid challenges. So they would rather run away from any challenge because they seem like why are they going to get into a challenge that's going to mess them up? It's going to like hurt the situation, right? They also give up easily when faced with obstacles. They run the other way. They don't want to deal with obstacles, right? They actually would prefer to do anything but deal with obstacles because they see it as something that's going to stop them. They get overwhelmed. They are people that tend to drown in a glass of water. They see an obstacle and they're like, oh my gosh, why do I have this obstacle? And it really affects them, right? In a severe way, right? Where they get stuck, they don't really thrive, right? So they avoid obstacles. They see effort as pointless. Sometimes they could see like this situation is what it is, and I'm just going to accept it. There's no way to fix this. There's no way to change this. It is what it is. So why am I going to put in the effort? Why am I going to try to be better at soccer per se? Why am I going to try to be better at whatever topic they want to learn at coding, or why I'm not good at that? So why am I even going to try, right? So they really see effort as this like pointless thing. They also feel threatened by the success of others. They tend to feel threatened. So when they see other people succeeding and thriving, they're like, oh my gosh, like they're naturally good at that, but they start feeling threatened. Like the other people's success affects them in a bad way, right? They avoid feedback or take it personally. So these are people that they don't want feedback, right? They don't want honest feedback. They prefer to do everything by themselves and just kind of be in their own little bubble because they cannot take feedback. They avoid it. They take it personally. So if someone says, hey, you could have done this better, you could do better in this area, hey, you can grow in this area, instead of receiving the feedback and growing, they run the other direction. They get offended. They don't like this. So this is a fixed mindset, right? Versus someone with a growth mindset. So someone with a growth mindset, they have the abilities. This is what they believe. They believe that like abilities and the intelligence that can be developed, right? That can be developed through effort, through strategies, through help from others. So they have this like really great positive insight. So they don't feel like, man, it's too late for me. I can't do this. They feel the opposite. They feel like I can learn, I can grow. Like this is a good thing. Like I'm okay. The people with this mindset, they embrace challenges. So they go into a hard situation. They're like, I can do this. I can learn. They don't see challenges and run the other way. They actually run towards challenges, or they're like, maybe they don't want to deal with it, but they're like, I'm going to deal with it. It's a challenge. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow through it, right? They persist through setbacks. So even though obstacles come up, they go through it, right? And perseverance, as we all know, is a key ingredient for success, right? So it makes sense that someone with a growth mindset would have this whole like, they would grow, right? Because these people grow through obstacles. They see obstacles, they go setbacks, they still go through it, right? They see effort as a path to mastery. So maybe they say like, I don't have to like start this place, but I'm not the best at it, but I can grow in this area. And so that's great. They also learn from criticism. So they are okay with constructive criticism. They are not always running away from it. They can grow and they can thrive in this area. They find inspiration in the success of other people. Like they are inspired when they read biographies or when they see successful people or people thriving in an area. So this is kind of the difference between two. In her book, and I've actually seen it in a lot of other places too, whenever you kind of research growth mindset versus fixed mindset, there's this example of two college students, which makes sense now knowing that she's a professor. She was a professor at Stanford University. She kind of juxtaposes them and shows the difference, right? So if you are someone if you are a student with a fixed mindset, she puts them together, right? So she gives the example of a fixed mindset student. So that fixed mindset student believes that doing well means that they must be naturally smart. So in order to be naturally smart, you have to be naturally like you have to be born smart, essentially, is what this person believes, right? This student also, she would notice that they think struggling in class means that they're not good enough. They really like take on this identity of like, I'm not good enough if I'm struggling in this class. They also avoid asking questions or seeking help for fear of looking unintelligent. Guys, I can say that I am a recovering, I'm just fixing the mic a little bit. I can say that I am a recovering, fixed mindset. I'm a recovering person with a fixed mindset. Why? Because I struggled with this a lot, a lot. I can think back specifically to some of my time when I was in national news. I remember that there would be new projects, new assignment, new things. And sometimes I had no idea, I had no frame of context to kind of know where to start, or something completely brand new to me. And I would just try to act like I knew what I was doing, but inside I didn't know what I was doing, right? And I wish that in those times I could go back and say, hey, instead of avoiding asking questions and seeking help for fear of looking unintelligent, which is what I would do it, I wish I would have instead asked the questions despite whoever was in the room, and just ask the questions, because it would have saved me so much time. Because what would happen is I would go back to my desk feeling like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start with this. What the heck am I doing? And I would spend hours trying to do the first step or the second step. And instead of doing that, I could have avoided all of that and just asked the right questions. And it would have started off further ahead. It would have set me up for success. It would have been a way better thing, right? So I completely understand that this fixed mindset characteristic of avoiding questions and seeking help for fear of looking unintelligent, right? Another characteristic of the student that had the fixed mindset, right, is they may give up or avoid the course in the future. So in the future, I have another example actually with this very topic of having a fixed mindset, because whenever I learned about this whole concept, I was like, wow, this is something that I've struggled with for so long. So much of my life I've struggled with this very issue, right? And so I remember we actually had in high school, we had a TV course. And I remember I wanted to do TV since I was little, right? Since I was a child, I was like, oh, I want to go into news. I want to work in TV. It's always kind of called my attention. I've always gravitated towards it. And I remember in high school, we had a TV program and I would take TV courses, and I was thriving. I was doing really well. And I remember there was this point halfway through the year of TV class, halfway through the year. So I guess like the semester, like in the beginning of the new semester, right when we were going to start the halfway point of the school year for my senior year of high school. And high school. And I remember that we were now going to move into editing video on TV, and we were going to now move into editing video, shooting our own video. We were going to do a whole project where we had to be the talent and everything, do everything on our own, which this was back in the day, guys. This was like in 2005. So if I would have been able to do that back in the day, I would have been miles ahead, right? But what did I do? I actually had a fixed mindset. I gave up the course, or avoided the course in the future, which is what I did, right? I ended up, I had a part-time job as well. And I ended up coming up with an excuse that I had to work part-time on weekdays after school. So I wasn't able to participate in any of the TV stuff or extra, I wouldn't have time to shoot the content, which was such a cop-out in retrospect, but at the time it felt like safe. It felt like what I needed to do. And I wish I would not have done that, because I kind of felt bad at the time, not making up, but just kind of like using an excuse, if you will. And let me tell you, years in the future, this came up so many times again, because I would have been miles ahead if in college, had I known how to edit and shoot my own video when I was taking TV courses. I would have been miles ahead. It would have saved me a lot of trouble, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, right? And then again, when I faced the same exact thing, when I started working in national news post graduating from college, I remember that, yes, the show that I worked on, we had, we had cameramen that had 20 years of experience as cameramen. We also had editors that had 20 years of experience as editors. And so I didn't really have to do that content, but had I been able to do that, I would have gotten ahead on different projects. I would have been seen more as a valuable employee, because that was the future. Now, if you are in journalism, you have to do that. That's not even an option. It's part of the world that we live in. And I would have been so far ahead of it, and I wouldn't have struggled. And even today, I'm not the best at editing video or shooting my own content, and I wish I was. These are things that I've been running away from for almost 20 years. We're actually like 20 years now, actually, if I really look at it. And so anyways, that's an example of a student I was a student with a fixed mindset, where I gave up. I avoided a course in the future because of that whole like being scared of it. I had thought that like, I just don't know how to edit video. I don't know how to edit video. I don't know how to shoot video. And so I avoided it, right? And so that was a disservice that I did to myself. And I learned from that, right? If I would have had a growth mindset, I would have approached the situation back in high school in a different way. And that would have been it would have put me like so much further ahead in my college career as well as my actual career afterwards, after college, right? So in the example that she talks about, this student they tie, performance to self-worth. Failure feels like a judgment of their value as a person. Guys, this is so on brand, right? This is so what I always talk about, right? Failure feels like a judgment of their person as like them as a person and like how valuable they are versus like they just failed at the situation, right? So they put too much emphasis and weight on failure, right? Whereas the student with a growth mindset, this person has a completely different perspective. They see the class as a challenge and opportunity to grow. This is someone that has a growth mindset. They see anything as an opportunity to grow. Any opportunity, they see it, any challenges, they see it as an opportunity, right? They don't get discouraged if their initial performance is poor. So maybe if we put that back to apply that, a growth mindset to the situation in high school that I'm talking about, the TV situation, that would have been helpful, right? Because maybe I would have known, okay, I'm going to not be great at shooting video. I'm going to not know something to really overwhelm me is how to import video. And I kid you not, I still kind of get anxiety around that very thing. I'm sure it is super easy, but for me, it felt so overwhelming. And, if I would have had a growth mindset back then, I wouldn't have not gotten discouraged that maybe I'm not going to be the best at importing video. Maybe I'm going to have to ask 1,000,001 questions on how to do this, but then I'm going to get better at it, right? Or maybe I would have, not gotten discouraged by, okay, I'm not going to edit video. It's going to be very amateur hour, but that's okay. I'm going to get better, right? So they don't get discouraged by initial poor performance, right? They seek help. They ask questions. They try new study strategies. So in this case, I could have asked for a bunch of different questions. I could have asked, my TV professor, hey, how do I edit this? Or my co-student, I guess what my I was going to say colleagues, but I guess my fellow students, my classmates, I could have asked them, hey, how do I edit this? Or, hey, you're really good at this. Can you help me? Right. So they just try different approaches, right? So that is someone with a growth mindset. They also believe that effort leads to improvement. This is so crucial. It's like they really have this mindset, like, I'm going to put in the effort. It's okay that it's not perfect. I'm just going to put in the effort because I'm going to improve over time. Where someone with a fixed mindset, they don't even want to put in the effort because they just don't believe that they're going to improve. It's a fundamental thing that they don't even want to put in the effort because they fundamentally don't believe that they're really going to improve. That they believe some people are winners and some people are losers. The student with the growth mindset, they treat setbacks as part of the learning process rather than proof that they cannot succeed, right? This is crucial, right? They say it's part of the process, right? I'm going to get better. I'm going to learn. I'm going to succeed. Like setbacks, it's just inevitable. It's okay. Like they see it as an opportunity. They see it such a healthy way, guys. So if you want to be successful in whatever dream career you have, whatever profession, whatever business you want to start, whatever you want to go into, please, please, please start adopting this growth mindset because you can clearly see the difference of what something that's going to set you back and something that's going to propel you forward, right? So the good news is about this whole fixed mindset versus growth mindset is that, and the students in this example is that Dwick, she makes a point, right? The same exact class. So this is the same exact like situation, coursework, difficult class for both of them, but both see it as completely different perspectives, right? The person with the fixed mindset glasses, they see it as a threat, right? They see this class as a threat to their career. They see it as a threat to their academic career, if you will. And while the person with the growth mindset glasses on, they see it as an opportunity. They see it as a growth experience. Like, hey, I'm not great at horticulture. I don't know, I'm making up a class, but I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to learn. Or I'm not great at biology, but I'm going to get better. I can learn the basics. I'm going to grow through this. So it's going to be a win-win either way, right? So that is someone with a growth experience. Same exact situation, very different mindsets. And so one student obviously excelled. And so what she projected and talked about is that the student, she explains, or what we can all explain from or learn from this, is that the student with a growth mindset, they applied it, their mentality came into this classroom, and the person with a fixed mindset, they came in with this mentality, right? But she can kind of predict that the person with a growth mindset, they're going to graduate from this course, they're going to graduate from college, and they're going to go on and succeed in life. Where the person with a fixed mindset, they're possibly not going to succeed. They're going to get stuck and stagnant, and they're not going to thrive in their careers or their business or professional lives or personal lives or whatever, what have you, right? And so I thought that was just, for me, when I learned this was so like eye-opening because I saw myself so much in the fixed mindset person. And for me, it was just such a profound experience. And that's why I think it's so important that you learn this as well, right? She emphasizes, Dweck, she emphasizes that it's not about talent or your intelligence that sets students apart. It's about their mindset, about learning, effort, and failures. The way that they perceive these different things, that's what sets them apart. That's what's going to make this one person successful and this other person possibly not successful, right? And so but we have good news. So if you are someone that is like, man, you've been listening to me and you're like, I am you, or I am someone with a fixed mindset, like, and you're scared, that's okay. That's how I was. It was eye-opening. I hope that this is eye-opening for you as well. And you see where you need to correct this stuff. But the good news is that, and this is what she talks about in her book, some of the key lessons or takeaways are that mindsets are not fixed, right? So that's a great thing. What does that mean? That means that you can choose to adapt a growth mindset, right? So growth mindset is something that you can choose to develop, right? So it's okay if you have a fixed mindset for the most part in your day-to-day life. It's okay. You can choose to develop a growth mindset. You can change that. You can be intentional about having a growth mindset and learning and developing in that area, right? And so I think that's the best news possible. So if you are listening and you want to be successful, but you feel like you've really been struggling with like succeeding in all areas, maybe you worked in a lot of different things, a lot of different camps, and you just still haven't found your thing. Know that that's part of the process and that's completely okay. That's not a problem. But also know that it's okay. You can develop a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, no matter what you do in life, I'm pretty sure you're going to be successful. I've seen to me, that is a thing, like I said, that I've seen time and time again with successful people. They have a growth mindset. They've adopted, or, maybe they had a fixed mindset at one point and they've adopted this growth mindset. And I think that is crucial. So work on developing this growth mindset, on changing this behavior. It's something that can change, which is right. If you have a fixed mindset, you might initially believe that you can't, but then you're going to grow into believing that you can't change these things, right? Another great thing to know about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, or another hack to know, is that you should praise the process and not the person, right? So instead of saying you're so smart, which is great, like you can see you're so smart, but maybe you're putting a lot of pressure on the person. A more healthy approach would be to say, hey, I'm proud of how hard you worked, right? This is something that I do with my son. A lot of times he wants to win everything. And I'm like, you know what? I put less emphasis on him winning and more emphasis on him doing well or playing well or trying or being brave or courageous, and like, wow, him working hard. And I think that's really great because it really helps you kind of, what does it do by doing the difference of like, hey, you're so smart versus I'm so proud of you because you worked hard? It helps them build resilience, motivation, and just a lot of great things, right? So this is like your great characteristic that will push you in the direction of a growth mindset, right? So if you're trying to be someone like that, start saying those things to other people, and hopefully and say that to yourself. Tell yourself like, hey, I'm so happy of how hard you worked on this project, right? So that is a good way to build your motivation and your resilience. Another great hack is mindset shape relationships, businesses, and parenting too. So leaders with a growth mindset build stronger, more innovative teams. So just know that if you are a leader, you're a manager, maybe you have a team of people that you are leading in the work front, or maybe you have a team of people that you are leading in another capacity at church or in your home. Maybe you're a mom of littles, or you have teenagers, whatever the case is, wherever you are leading people, know that adopting a growth mindset is going to be healthy. It's going to really help you shape your relationships. It's going to help you in business. It's going to help you with parenting. It's going to help the people around you and that are below you do better. They're going to be more innovative. They're going to be stronger. They're going to be probably more apt to share ideas because you've developed and you've created this like system or this environment for where growth mindset is really celebrated, right? And that's where people come up with ideas. They're not scared of failing. They're not scared of sharing ideas, right? So this is a really helpful thing, right? Especially parents and teachers, you can foster this in children's growth through encouragement and support, like continue trying to adapt and apply this growth mindset thing, because it's really going to help your child be successful in the future. That's really my belief in this. And another key thing that you should know, which is completely on brand, is that failure is a learning opportunity, which I say that all the time, but really failure is really a learning opportunity, right? Mistakes are not a sign of weakness, but a normal part of growth. So once we start adopting that, that's part of the growth mindset, right? So you're listening to this podcast, you are already in the process of having a growth mindset, right? Because you're already adopting this view of failure as an opportunity to grow. And I think that's just so great. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with this? Do you agree that the number one thing that successful people have in common is that they have a growth mindset? Do you agree with Carol Dweck's theory? Do you agree with what I'm sharing? Do you agree with it? Or do you not? Maybe you're like, no, I don't agree. I think that this is something else is the most common characteristic of successful people. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure to leave me a note wherever you are listening. Send me a DM, follow us on Instagram and send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you, as well as if you are, listening to this podcast, I hope you will subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I hope you will find this content helpful. Share it with a friend as well. But let me know. And also let me know if you found this episode helpful because I love this topic and I'm actually interested in doing more episodes about this very topic of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. If you'd like to do a whole episode where I really dive deep into like how growth mindset and fixed mindset can affect you in your work, in your career, or how to grow as in a growth mindset area, how to grow in that area and go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, let me know. I'd love to do episodes around every topic. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love hearing from you guys and all your feedback. So there you have it. That is the number one thing that all successful people have in common. And that is the number one thing you need to know and learn and adapt in order to be successful. I hope you enjoyed this episode and I hope to see you next time. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If it helped you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you would take a minute to leave us a review. It's the only way I can truly gauge if this content is helping you. Your review also helps get this podcast out to more women that may be in need of it. And when I'm up late working on getting these episodes to you, reading your reviews and knowing this is helping you is what truly keeps me going. Also, if watching video podcasts is more your thing, we are now on YouTube. Remember to hit subscribe so that you can receive a notification every time we put out a new episode. Lastly, if you love this podcast and would like additional resources or to be added to our monthly behind-the-scenes Boss Women newsletter, simply go to paolasoares.com to sign up. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the But First She Failed podcast. Hope to see you next time.
This is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.